Okay, there we are. Let me set up my goal for the evening on my iPad. Gosh, do I have a story for you guys. If you're watching it at the beginning on the replay, you might want to fast forward just for the first couple minutes till we get it going. Such an amazing story, though. This is just, as an investigator, I'm mind blown over this. There we are. Now I'm set up. Now we just wait for the people to come in. It's Friday night. We will see. Hey, Kathy. I'm doing all right. How are you? Just waiting for a few people to come in here. We can get this thing going. I'm glad you're good. I'm actually watching the ball game from Denver. I thought they were going to cancel it today because they had a big snowstorm right before the game. It's crazy. I'm glad I don't live in Denver. Hey, Leanne, how are you, my friend? I'm just going to report this story. I think I might actually do a long form content video. I'm just waiting to go back to the mailbox in Studio City and pick up my new microphone. Hopefully, it's already sitting there. And hey, Trisha, welcome in. Hey, Deanna. Well, there's lots of noise in the building tonight. I hope you guys can't hear it in the background. Can you hear me? I have the mics on. Hopefully the sound is good and there's no YouTube issues tonight. It's 7 o'clock here. Well, 7:08. I haven't gone to the mailbox. I've already been there twice this week and I can't go like every day. So I'll be there in a few more days. Oh, good. Sounding great. Okay, Deanna, you can listen in the background. Let's just wait and see if we can get a few more people in here. I only got 7 people in here, and I think one of them's my iPad. Hey, now we're up to 12. This is April Davis. I'm April Davis, PI in Los Angeles, California. I'm a licensed private investigator in the state of California. And I've been doing a true crime series lately on Nancy Guthrie, but we do talk about other cases. And this is a case that I wasn't familiar with until recently because, this is many years before my time. This is a case going back to 1958. Yeah, December 1958, the missing Martin family of Portland, Oregon. And the reason I'm talking about it today is because yesterday there was a major, major breakthrough in this case. No, my kitty is not here right now. Kitty's in the bedroom, sleeping on the bed. So there's been a major break in this case, and it made me think about Nancy Guthrie because I remember in the past several weeks, the sheriff said, or someone, was it Nano? Someone in that case said, well, this could go on for weeks, months, or even years, decades. And I thought, oh my God, could it really go that long? Past all of our lifetimes, before she's ever found. Like that can actually happen. And this case started in 1958. And in April of 2026, the remaining 3 family members were finally identified. It took 68 years. Yes, Nanos did say that. I thought it was them. Remember, this is a long case and there's a lot to remember. And speaking of that case, I finally did take several of you guys' suggestion and I set up a Nancy Guthrie case playlist. So instead of going to the news or going to the true crime playlist, you can just go specifically to the Nancy Guthrie playlist and just hit play, and it'll go all the way down. Carson, no, we're not talking about that today. We are talking about the Miller family, middle class family. They lived in Northeast Portland, Oregon. And December 6th of 1958, they went to a neighbor's Christmas party enjoying the holidays, decided they were going to drive up to this location that I think is only maybe a half hour outside of Portland. Of course, they probably didn't have the roads that they have today. They were going to drive up the Cascade Mountains along the Columbia River to a very famous scenic place called the Columbia River Gorge. And they were going to go get Christmas greenery to bring it home to make wreaths. This is the 50s, people. This is amazing. Hi, Scarlett. Hey, Jamie. So they lived, and this is public, 1715 North 56th Avenue in Portland. I've seen videos on the house. It's incredible. This is so incredible that I think I'm going to have to make a long form content video on this so I can show you guys the pictures. But I know that the people that are watching the long form videos are not necessarily the people that are watching the lives. So I decided I'd probably do both. But these people went up on Sunday morning, left the house, never to be seen again. And it was the entire family, the mom, the dad, and 3 daughters that were 14, 13, and 11. Now, they did have an adult son, but he had already left and was in the Navy. Hello. Okay. Thank you, Tricia. I was like, what's that? So, minus the eldest son, the mom, Kenneth, or the mom, Barbara, who went by BB, and the dad was E. Kenneth Martin. And then they had these 3 kids, Barbara Jr., basically. She went by Barbie, and there was a Virginia, and there was a Susan, and she went by Sue. They go off, never to be seen or heard from again. Hey, Boston Bill, nice to see you in here, friend. So, never to be seen or heard from again. And a couple of days later, when both of the parents had not been seen at work, the family got suspicious. Boy, we have a lot of knuckleheads coming in here tonight. Trisha, you just go ahead and do your thing if you have to. I appreciate you, Trisha. And you don't have to stay, but hopefully this won't take very long. So this family, they go to get their Christmas greenery on a Sunday morning in December 1958. They're driving a 1954 Ford station wagon, cream colored, that had this like kind of a pinkish red like trim around it. I mean, I've seen pictures on the internet. It's it's bomb, this 1954 Ford. If you guys don't know, I'm a big car person. And I remember my family, like in the late 60s, early 70s, driving the big old clunky Ford wagons, and all the carpools I was in as a child, and kindergarten through elementary. People had those big Ford LTDs that had the wood paneling and had the trundle seat. So this was quite a car. They drive up there. They never come back. The house is just sitting there empty. I guess the kids don't go to school. The parents don't go to work. The neighbors realize, like, hey, something's wrong. And it turns out they're officially missing people at that time. So after all of this happened, the following year, in the spring of 1959, 2 of the kids were found, the youngest, the 13-year-old and the 11-year-old, and sadly, they were found deceased in the Columbia River. Wow. Hi, Hank. What is all of this? Okay, so the 2 little girls are found, and they were found downstream, but they were found 30 miles apart. And there's no way to know how they passed, how they got into the river. They had obviously been there for quite some time. And then after the girls were laid to rest, the case went cold, like for decades. I mean, like multiple decades. And for years, there was 2 separate sheriff's departments that were diving in that river. But I've never been to Oregon or Washington, but I'm extremely familiar with that river because I followed the D.B. Cooper case. Remember the guy that jumped out of the airplane, never to be seen again? I follow that case. And that river is big, it's wide, it's deep. It goes down the Cascade Mountains all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Uh, if you're in that river, you're probably never, ever going to be found. Uh, let's see. Oh, thank you, Pro Happy Bro. Yeah, it's my Disney cap. So that river has extreme currents, as do most lakes. So even if a lake or a river looks calm on the top, you don't want to go diving down there because you could get stuck in debris, you could get hit by a log, you could get stuck in a hole. There's silt, there's mud, you could never get out of it. It's extremely dangerous. But these professional divers from 2 local sheriff's departments spent decades not even having a clue where to look. And they did find out that this family had stopped at a gas station. And back in the day, remember, there was no internet, but people often had gas company credit cards. And I guess the guy, I'm just guessing, he might have had his card swiped because they found a receipt with his name at a gas station. And then at some place further down the road, there was a waitress. And this is, in the middle of nowhere in the 1950s. I mean, this is the middle of nowhere now. So back then, they probably didn't even have the freeway, just some little roadside, cafe. And a waitress said, yeah, I saw that family. They were in here. I recognized the father. They were here. And so the police figured they must have been on their way back and something must have happened. And it turned out the day after this happened, there were 2 ex-cons that were arrested in the area for carrying like a stolen weapon. I don't know how both of them could have been arrested if one of them just had a weapon, but these 2 fellows, for whatever, they were arrested. They were kind of suspects, as was their grown son, who was off in the Navy, but I guess his whereabouts were accounted for in the military. Jamie James, that's scary, April. Middle of nowhere diners no more than is talked about. Exactly. So for years, this case, and I definitely have to do a long form video because I have so many pictures to show you guys. It's going to be shocking to see the pictures. For years, this case was cold. And then in like 2018, this is a Wi-Fi mic, not a tracker. But thank you, DX. Years later, around, I think it was 2018, there was this man who now apparently is writing a book. Don't know if it's been published yet, named Archer Mayo, and he was a professional diver. And he decided to study this case, even though he's not an investigator. He decided to study it, kind of like these groups that go out now and they look in lakes for like missing cars and missing people. And he dove hundreds, not dozens, but hundreds of times. And in like late 2024, he finds something that he thinks is a car, okay, at the bottom of the lake or the river. But it's 50 feet down in a gorge. It's surrounded by mud and silt and just, debris. He can't even get to it. And he reports it to the police. And the beginning of 2025, the sheriff's department hires a barge, like a big barge that you would see going down a river that has one of those big industrial sized cranes. And that crane even couldn't get to the entire car. They pulled up part of it. And that's why I got to do long form so you can see the picture. It's like, it's literally part of the frame, part of the chassis, and a couple of wheels. Like, there's no hood or um, there's no windows or doors or roof of the car, like no mirrors. Like, it's literally just hunks or chunks of metal that's dangling from this crane. And they got enough of the car that through the Ford Motor Company and through a partial plate, they were able to identify it. Let's see. I am not diagnosed with anything. We're going to put somebody in a timeout. Goodbye. So see, this interrupts my train of thought at my age. So anyway, the car is found. Part of it, it is identified through the DMV, the police, and the Ford Motor Company. But this guy who is the professional diver who claims to be writing a book, Archer Mayo, he decides to go back like after the barge and the crane pulls out part of the car, and he does subsequent very dangerous dives. And I guess he had some bags or something to carry stuff in, and he actually pulls out remains and some shoes and some clothing and a camera. Okay, they later pull that out in 2025. It's just like, I guess, pieces of bone. It's not much, but it was enough. And yesterday, in April of 2026, the DNA evidence identified E. Kenneth Martin, his wife Barbara, who went by Bibi, and their eldest daughter Barbara, who went by Barbie. So this happened December 7th, 1958. And on April the 16th, 2026, these people were identified. Oh, Jamie James, almost missed it. Thank you so much. Yeah, like I have got to do a long form content so you can see the condition of the car. You can see the size of the river. You can see the parts, like some of the clothing and just the items. I can't even tell what most of it is. I've metal detected before, pulling muck out of the ocean and muck out of lakes, but I would never uh, go into a river like that. And even in a lake, you have to be like super careful. Um, I know, so sad those lives were lost for no good reason. And they still don't know how the car got into this place. And this place where they found them was called Cascade Locks. And there is a bridge there between the Washington side and the Oregon side, because that river, if you look at it on a map, you'll see the property or the boundary line between the two states. It's very, very close. It's just upriver from where the DB Cooper, some of the cash was found on the riverbank in the early 80s. Some little boy who wasn't even alive when DB Cooper, jumped out of that plane. They found pieces of cash and all rubber band together. It was about maybe 5 or 6 grand out of that, what was a couple $100,000 in 20s. It was just a few pieces. And that was found in Vancouver, Washington, on the banks of the Columbia River. And I've been studying that case since I was a little kid. And I could tell you, like, that would be a very dangerous situation. Um, if you drove off a bridge, I mean, obviously you wouldn't survive, but they also could have been on the side of the road and they may have been pushed. Apparently, there was evidence that maybe a car had been pushed in, but they could never prove it. And then, maybe over the years, the currents, kind of sucked the car and put it in the lowest spot. It's kind of like when you have a leak with water, it drips down to the lowest spot, like in the ceiling or in the walls, and everything's going to go downward. And so over 60 years, basically, the car somehow ends up in the middle in a 50-foot gorge at the bottom of the river, in muddy, silt and dirt and debris. And you probably can't see, like, from here to my cell phone, which is like a foot and a half. Like, you can't even see anything. And this guy is my hero. This guy that made hundreds of dives to say, I think I found it. You know, you would have to have a friggin' submarine, I would think, to go down there to see something like that. I can't imagine the danger that he put himself in to do this. But it says basically here, the Martin family disappearance refers to the 1958 vanishing of Kenneth, Barbara, and their three daughters, Barbara, Virginia, and Susan, in the Columbia River Gorge, Oregon, after a Christmas greenery gathering trip. Now that makes me sad, because I remember the Sunday after Thanksgiving going out with my parents, but you know, where we lived, there was no place to go out in the forest and chop down a tree. These people went to go probably get the pine needles or the pine cones to make wreaths. And it says the case remained a mystery for decades when only the bodies of two daughters were recovered in 1959. But in late 2024, diver Archer Mayo located the 1954 station wagon submerged in the old Cascade Locks, leading to the recovery of human remains and personal effects, finally solving the mystery of their vehicle's location after 67 years. So it took 67 years to find the vehicle when they pulled it up in 2025. But they didn't, well, it was 67 years when the guy found it, but then they pulled it up. It's like 68 years now for them to have identified the parents and the oldest daughter. And they still don't know, like, how they got there. Let's see. Oh, hey, Rita. Didn't see you come in. I was busy yapping. Uh, that's why I really enjoyed psychology in college. It's fascinating and mysterious at the same time. My mom would do that. Dead grapevines, berries, and evergreen branches. Yeah. Um, yeah. Like, I mean, they seem like such a nice family, and I've seen the house. There's a picture of the house, like in the 50s, and it's like a newer home then. I don't know how old it was then, but it's all like grass and there's hardly any trees. And now, if you see that same street, because I saw a YouTube video this afternoon, it's all like a forest, and you have the Oregon, Washington type of big tall pine trees around it, and there's like a little detached garage in the back, and it's all very rustic looking, like it's out in the middle of the woods. Like in 1958, it was just like a home that was in the suburbs. Now that street is all like the Pacific Northwest would look, I guess. I've never been to Oregon or Washington or sadly like Vancouver, Canada, but in British Columbia, but that's what it reminded me of. Like, yeah, it looks like the Pacific Northwest, like I've seen in, pictures and in the movies and on the internet. And this house, apparently the son that was in the Navy eventually, I guess, assumed ownership of the house. And they must have had them declared deceased at some point. And when he got out of the Navy, his ship was eventually decommissioned. And he got one of the port windows from the ship. And he actually, they drilled a hole in the house in the living room or someplace. And there's a Navy ship window with the original hardware that's in the current owner's house. And the current owner said, and these are younger people now, they probably weren't even alive. I wasn't even alive when this happened. Uh, that they feel like a connection to the people. And apparently, if you live in Portland, this has been a big deal for decades. This is a historical case. And it just made me think of Nancy, like, oh my God, like, could this actually go on for 68 years? Like, that's scary. Let's see. Yeah, 58 is way before my time. My parents weren't even like married yet or knew each other. That's a long time ago. And they were born like in the late 30s. So this is crazy. Like, and the family, they look so sweet. The son who was in the Navy, he looked kind of cute. And I was always like, oh, who's that guy in the picture that they have like a mark through? Because they have all these family photos where they sat on the sofa in the living room. And you can see, like, there's a YouTuber that actually knocked on the door of that house and he was allowed to go inside and film it. And that those people have a sofa like in the same spot. Like, wow, this is where the sofa was, and this is where the window was, and this is where they had their Christmas tree. And it's fascinating. But, were these people the victim of a crime? Did the guy have some sort of a medical event and he drove off a bridge? Was it late at night? He took a wrong turn. Like, who knows? But that car did end up in the Columbia River. It eventually ended up in the middle of the river in this Cascade Lock, was it? I'm not familiar with this. Cascade Locks. And it was on the way down the hill from this Columbia River Gorge. And they lived in Northeast Portland. So apparently it's not that far. There's an Interstate 84 that goes through there now, but I kind of doubt that might not even have been there in 1958. Maybe they had to take little, two-lane windy mountain road like the roads we take to get up to Big Bear or Lake Arrowhead. It's still, even in 2026, it's very remote. So I can't even imagine um, being this family and having these kids 11, 13, and 14, and the whole family just goes. And the only person that's left behind was the son that wasn't with them. And I based on, if he was old enough to be in the Navy in 1958, I would imagine that he's probably at least my parents' age, and my parents are deceased. So this guy's probably not even alive anymore to have seen that they found the car in, or part of it, in 2024. They pulled part of it out of the river in 2025. And in April 2026, the three missing family members that had never been found have been, positively identified. Um, I'm not really familiar with Oregon winters. Do they have blinding snow? I think they do have snow. I don't know if it's blinding snow, but there is that mountain range there, the Cascades. Uh, I would like to know if the son is still alive, but I doubt it because he'd probably be late 80s or early 90s. I'll have to look that up. Like, what was the son's name? And they haven't mentioned him in any of this, so I would assume he's probably long gone. But they had to have some relatives from somewhere in order, in more modern times to extract, DNA or get DNA samples from the family because that's how the the last three were identified. When the first two daughters were found in 1959, they didn't even have DNA. So, those I would assume dental records for the little girls. Oregon is just really cold and wet in the winters. And that's when this guy was diving in the cold, wet winter. Black ice, but not really snow that sticks. Son could have had a family. Yeah, there could be aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, who knows? It was the neighbors, though, who tipped off the police that, oh, they were planning to go get the greenery to make Christmas wreaths. Yeah, I was wondering if he could have gotten blinded and turned around. Who knows? Like, I don't know the time of the day that the waitress saw them at the restaurant or the time of the day that the guy went to get gas. I know they left their house supposedly and they had planned to leave that morning. Maybe they were up there the whole day. Maybe they were just up there for a few hours and they stopped for lunch, or maybe they were up there all day and they stopped for dinner and it was already dark. Hello, Alvin Iverson. Welcome in. So, isn't this crazy? Like, all these years, 68 years. It's 2026. And they just solved the last part of the case this week. Now, it's not 100% solved because they'll never know. They'll never know, how they got down there. And I don't think they even probably have all of the remains as far as the last three. It's probably just enough to identify them because it's just mud and silt, and that river dumps directly into the Pacific Ocean. Uh, most the parts that are down there would never probably be found. I just can't even imagine. Now, the water would probably be very cold at that level, which maybe would help preserve some of it, but that car wasn't preserved. That car, you couldn't even tell it was a car hardly. Like, it's just nothing left. And God bless the diver that never gave up and looked for these people. So, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, with even though we're not talking about the Nancy Guthrie case tonight, there's nothing new. Um, wonder if it, wonder if that case could be like this case. At least in today's time, we have DNA now. So if something is found in her case where there can be a match to somebody, that could help. But you know, yes, 7 decades, like incredible. Um, Lily says, "You may know me from yesterday. I was asking a question, but why did you put me in timeout?" I don't even know who you are, Lily. I have mods that take care of everything. Hello, Jane. Yeah, but if you're only 11, you need to talk to your parents because you have to be 18 or older to participate in this. Now, if you were like 17 and a half, we might let it slide. Yeah, last night we had a lot of kids coming in here and some goofiness going on. So no, I don't know you from yesterday. Sorry, Lily. Let me see if I missed anybody in the chat. Yeah, I'm definitely going to probably, once I get the microphone set up and I can actually have the time. Monday I'm going for the dental, so I probably won't be on Monday because I'll be numb. Uh, let's see. What did I miss? Desert and rivers to dump bodies. Sadly, yes. Oh, hey, Will Byers. I didn't see you come in. Jamie James, I did thank you for the happy poop. That's pretty funny. Did I miss anything else? Well, I'm a detective pro happy. He says, did you do all that research by yourself? I'm kind of new here and I'm amazed. Yeah, I did. I am a real life PI, Trisha. Thanks for letting everybody know. Oh, thank you. I didn't even like I was so like wrapped up in my story that I didn't even see it. But then there's another article about them too, but it's basically the same thing. And it said it was a cream 1954 Ford four-door station wagon with red trim. But in the pictures, the red looked kind of pinkish. Maybe it was just faded because it's an old picture. But it ended up in the Columbia River. And over the years, both the Hood River County and don't know how to pronounce this, Multnomah County Sheriff's Offices conducted extensive dive operations in the area. In 2018, a private diver identified as Archer Mayo of White Salmon, I don't even know where that is that Oregon? Began to use his own equipment on his own time to independently search for the Martin family. He searched for years using old photographs and maps to guide him. After hundreds of dives in the river, Mayo discovered a car under the water near Cascade Locks in November 2024. So that would have been a very cold time of the year. I mean, I think even in the summer, that river would be ice cold. He described the car as being located in a debris covered pit about 50 feet underwater and encased in debris. The Hood River County Sheriff's Office began recovery efforts in early 2025. Only the frame, and I mean like a small part of the frame, and some attached components were recovered due to the extent that the car was encased in sediment. Attempting to pull more of the vehicle out of the water proved challenging, and authorities suspended further recovery efforts. Yeah, can you believe that? And then the guy eventually, this diver decided he was going to keep going. Investigators analyzed the frame and other parts that were retrieved and compared the serial numbers to records from the Ford Motor Company. They concluded that what was recovered was part of the Martin family's car. Mayo initially didn't locate any remains, but discovered them later that year. The remains were turned over to the sheriff's office and the medical examiner's office. So he dove November 2024. Then the sheriff's department hired the barge that had the crane in early 2025. But even with an industrial sized barge, like a big barge that goes down a river, um, with, an industrial sized crane that could build a skyscraper, they gave up. They couldn't get enough of it out. And so then later in 2025, that same year, this guy, Mayo, he kept digging. And that's when he found things that were turned over to the Hood River County Sheriff's and the Oregon State Medical Examiner's Office. And they worked with a genetics lab called Othram Inc., and they specialize in advanced DNA analysis. Then Othram sent the evidence to a lab in Texas. Scientists then developed DNA extracts from the remains. Blah, 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 blah. It's all the scientific stuff. Then eventually they identified Kenneth first and then the other two. And it says Barbara and Barbie Martin were then identified. So he was identified first, and then the wife, and then the daughter, Barbie. And then somebody said to die is one thing, but to die and then to be in a mystery is like a whole other level of discomfort. There's just another tragic aspect about that, the whole mysteriousness. And this was from the diver. So the fact that nobody can argue with this now, DNA proof, we found Barbie, BB, and Kenneth, the daughter who was missing, and the two parents, it really does feel good. Yeah, I think that's how they'll feel about Nancy once she's found. It's still going to be a tragedy, but the sooner they find her, the better. Yes. decades, like 7 decades of detective work. This happened in 1958. They found the 2 youngest daughters in 1959. We still will never know how the car got in the water, or did it drive off a bridge, or who knows. Google says the average temperature can be 58 in November and 48 in December, so the water wouldn't be too terribly cold yet. Okay. Well, I would assume he would wear a wetsuit, but you know, those currents, like even when the water's calm on the top, you just get a few feet beneath the surface. Even like in LA, like the beaches, the currents are not like they are on the Gulf of Mexico where I grew up. Like there's a part of Zuma where the point sticks out. Same with Palos Verdes, where the points of Santa Monica Bay, they jet way out. And once you get into a foot or two of water there, it just drops and people just, they're just sucked right out. So I can't imagine being 50 feet below the surface of a river in cold weather in, you know, between Oregon and Washington. You're out in the middle, right on the state line, and the currents and just all the debris that's coming down the mountain, and you know, it would be extremely dangerous. Um, yes, they did notice. 2 days later, the family was reported missing when the parents didn't show up for work. And I would assume that the kids were missing at school too, unless maybe because it was December, maybe they were already off for Christmas. That, but although that would seem a little early. Um, I grew up in Oregon. Sometimes there was zero visibility. Yeah, I bet. And you know, there's like boats and ships and barges coming down that river. It would be extremely dangerous to be out in the middle like that. That's why, you know, they've never been able to recover all the evidence from the DB Cooper case, because when he jumped, it is believed that he lost the money, and it wasn't, you know, he didn't have the right uh, equipment to tie it up, and it was in a bag, and you know, he's falling at probably 180 feet or 180 miles an hour, like, you know, 1,000 feet a minute, and you just like, you know, and the wind is blowing and it's dark, and it was in the middle of a storm in November, like, you know, the money just went and just like flew away. And you know, part of it was found in the early 80s on the banks of the Columbia River. So they've always believed that the Columbia River, you know, if you could see to the bottom, just like if you could clear out all the oceans and see what's lying there, you'd be shocked. You know, all the shipwrecks and the plane crashes and things that are not even from this world can be laying in the bottom of the ocean. So I got to give the guy credit. This guy who went there, you know, over and over and over for years. And, you know, between him and the sheriff's departments, there were hundreds of dives. And, you know, at least part of this family, they can finally be laid to rest. Now, I would like to know, I'd like to research it further and know if the son is still living, but I doubt it because, like I said, he'd probably be in his 90s by now. Yeah, I didn't know you grew up in Oregon, Jamie. Yeah, it looks like it's beautiful. That neighborhood where the house still sits looks gorgeous. I'd love to have a house like that. It's got a lot of history. And whoever lives in it now, obviously somebody's updated it. So they just showed a small part of it. They showed the living room where some of those photos were taken, you know, like in the 50s. And it's just, it's kind of sad, you know, because those kids, they were all like little kids. The parents weren't even that old. Like the dad was in his early 50s, I think, and the mom was like 48. And then the kids were like 14, um, 13 and 11, I believe, and they're just vanished, and they were out doing something so cool, you know, going out and getting, the greenery, you know, out in the wild to bring it home to make wreaths for Christmas. Probably something they did every year. They probably made the trek to go get a tree or to get the foliage, to forage in the forest and, find some branches that still had leaves on them or needles on them to make the wreaths. Yeah, the son was not with them. He had gone off to be in the Navy. Yeah, incredible. And apparently back, 1958, when they disappeared, he was questioned. But I'm sure his whereabouts were probably accounted for depending on where he was stationed. And, it was a Sunday. He could have had a day off. Who knows? But yeah, like I think this subject would definitely be worth a long form content video. Just to be able to see, you could see the river, you could see that car coming up on the crane, and it's just like it's just unidentifiable. It's just pieces of metal. You can't even tell that like it used to be a car. Most of it's still in the river to this day. But at least the diver went back after the police were like, even with the barge and the crane, they were just like, okay, we got as much as we need to get and we're done. Um, oh, was someone saying you changed your avatar, Trisha? They go by so fast for me that I didn't even notice. Oh, yeah, well, I'm sure, we're not going to get as many people in here as we would for like a Nancy Guthrie video, but uh, I can never be accused of, well, you only talk about Nancy and you don't talk about other things. And I did make the Nancy Guthrie case, the Nancy Guthrie case playlist today, and there's a total of 63 videos on there. 61 of which are the lives. One is a long form, which it does go through the list of suspects, and then there's one little teeny short on there. Um, Trisha, I'm coming back in my next life as a unicorn. I want to come back as an eagle because I want to have eagle eye vision. They don't have good night vision, but an eagle can sit on top of a 10-story building, look over the edge, and can see something the size of an ant on the ground. And my whole childhood was affected by bad vision, and I wasn't able to do the career of my choice, which was going to be a police detective, a narcotics detective. I couldn't do that because of my eyes. So I will come back as an eagle. Speaking of Nancy, what are the odds that there was another Nancy just minutes from Nancy? I know. And then apparently the sheriff put out some kind of alert and it said Nancy and it was stamped found. And everybody thought it was her because this lady's like 82 and she's similar in size. And they had a big stamp across her face that said found. And everybody took that as it was Nancy Guthrie, but it was something like long name, possibly a Russian name. And she went missing in the same neighborhood and she was found. Um, may you be the wisest owl. Yeah, an owl, they have great vision too. But I've always thought like a bald eagle. But a wise old owl, that wouldn't be a bad thing either. Hopefully, when we go to the other side, we can be whatever we want to be. Whether it's a butterfly or an eagle or a mermaid. Hopefully, we have a choice. A fancy unicorn with glitter. Too funny. Let's hope so. Let's hope that there's more than this, people. Yeah, we won't go down the political or the religious wormhole tonight, but yeah, let's definitely hope that there's got to be more than this. But anyway, I don't have much to talk about tonight. Oh, I did find out that, and I believed this yesterday. If you remember yesterday's video, when they talked, some guy on Facebook was saying that part of that ransom to Bitcoin guy had been paid. The news agency down in Tucson, where that Brianna Whitney works, they have access to that Bitcoin account because remember that station was one of the news stations that got some of the ransoms. So they know what those Bitcoin accounts are, and no, nothing was put in. In like early February, somebody put a small amount in that was under $300 as a test with a note that said, contact us, you know, we're willing to talk, contact us. And that nobody ever took that money. Nobody ever bit. And so, no, nothing was paid. And, these, just like I told you, there was a woman named Jackie who was in the comments of that guy saying that that person's information was historically inaccurate. So I figured it was something like that. So, yeah, nothing new to report on her, sadly. Oh, yeah, Tricia, she said, this is just a warm up, kind of like boot camp. Absolutely. I hope there's more than this. And hopefully, Nancy, that she's already there. She's just living it up right now. Yes, the FBI does have the hair and piece of bedding. And from what I'm hearing, they had this before, as far as the hair, and it went to the lab in Florida, and for 12 weeks after no luck, it's now being forwarded to the FBI's lab. Trisha, so fingers, legs, and eyes crossed. Absolutely. Hey, Sue Brock. Yeah, I'm just getting ready to go off. I was just talking about this crazy case, this missing family, the Martin family from 1958, and yesterday the remaining three were finally identified through DNA. It's absolutely crazy. And I was thinking of doing a long form content, but I need to get to my box before Monday, hopefully, and see if that microphone is there, and then I can, start working on stuff. But I'll be at the dental appointment for dentist appointment number 2, God willing, on Monday. So I may not do a live on Monday because I may not be able to speak. Uh, yes, the FBI has a new piece of equipment that wasn't supposed to come out until the end of next year. Well, I would figure that they would have better equipment than any of the other labs to test rootless hair. Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. But yeah, it could be anybody, though. I mean, I'm glad they're going to test it. I think they should test everything they have. It's worth a shot. But you know how many people have been in that house? And I don't know where, was this from the bedroom or from the bed, or because they do believe she was taken from the bed. So at least that's what Savannah was told. The police have never said that to the public, but Savannah did say that she was taken from her bed. Exactly, Deanna. Detective School 101. Like the rug in the front of the door. Yeah, the doormat. That would have been a good place to start. You think? Yeah. Oh my gosh. How is that sheriff still even employed? I don't know. Yes, but it is part of a hair bedding sample. Okay. Let's hope it was during that first 20 hours. Yeah, before the crime scene was released. This is just that this is the I have to say, this Nancy Guthrie case, there's nothing about that case that's normal. But at least, the descendants of the Martin family, they can finally rest comfortably as of yesterday, knowing that, you know, it's been solved. And hopefully they have enough to be able to lay them to rest. Yeah, what's going on in 10 days, Jane? I hope there's a break on this Nancy Guthrie case, because I wanna be able to at some point, I wanna be able to sleep at night again. Oh, I remember. He's got that hearing. Is it the 21st or the 29th? He's got that hearing where he's gotta answer, either verbally, or, uh, he can even write a statement. It can be written, or it can be an oral statement where he is going to answer the questions about his mistruths on his sheriff's application. Yes. Thank you for reminding us, Jane. Yeah, it's in one of my videos what the date is of that, but I don't remember. Like there's 63 videos on that now, so and I did make the playlist today if anybody just wants to go to the Nancy Guthrie playlist and they just want to hit play and it can just play all the way through. That would take days. You could hit play and then you could time it and tell me, set a timer when you start and when it goes all the way to the end. How many days? Would it take a week or more to hear it all? Boy, I'd get some amazing views here on YouTube if people would do that. Hey, John. Oh, thank you. Well, why don't you go check out the new playlist that I created today? And that took a long time because I had to go to each individual video. I couldn't just go click, 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 click down the list, add to this. No, I had to open up each video because each video was in the true crime playlist and it was in the news playlist. But there's other true crime videos and there's other news videos. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to take you guys' advice and I'm just going to start a third playlist that says Nancy Guthrie. And I created it today. And the top of the list is the most recent published video, and the bottom of the list is the oldest published. And in what order you can hear it in, I'm not sure, but you can just hit play and it'll just start going. Or y'all could just put it on 2 times speed, let it play on silent while y'all sleep. Helps the algorithm watch hours and views. Do I hunt? Oh, absolutely not. A treasure hunt, but that's it. Um, no, I don't get panic attacks. Thank God. But I do get medical induced anxiety because of all that I've been through. Like, don't ever put me in an MRI machine again with a head cage. Not going to happen. Even if they suspect a breast cancer related metastasized brain tumor, it'll just have to get me because unless I'm unconscious, I'll never go into one of those tubes again with the cage screwed down so they can see the neurological stuff. Like, nope. But no panic attacks. Not yet. Knock on wood. Jamie James, I dropped off the conversation. My husband was talking to me about rolling up our 2 rugs for moving. Oh, okay. Well, we're almost done here. So thank you for coming in, everybody. You know what? I just realized something. We have not seen our friend Saraf tonight. Saraf from Israel. Of course, it is the middle of the night there. It's almost 8 o'clock here. So it would be 6 a.m. in Tel Aviv in another minute. We've not heard from him tonight. We better hope he's all right. Yeah, good night, Jane. But yeah, this is something to it's worth making a long form content. It won't be terribly long, but at least I'll be able to show you guys the pictures of some of the items that were found, after they pulled up the car and when they had the crane on the barge in the middle of the river. I mean, that's how big this river is that they had to get a barge. It's not like they could just put a tow truck with a line and throw it out, 50 feet, but beneath the surface of the top of the river. Like, no, they had to get a barge and a big, tall crane. And even that, with the mud and the weight of the silt and the debris, they still couldn't retrieve much of it. So a lot of the evidence is still lying at the bottom of the river, but at least they have enough to know that that was their car. And then this hero who did all these dives, he was the one who went back and then found just a few of the remains of the family and a camera and some shoes. I think maybe some pieces of cloth or something. Oh, God bless him. God bless him. I'll have to look to see if his book has come out yet. Not that I have time to read a book, but I would love to hear it on audio tape just to hear more about it. Uh, is this somebody from India? I think I've seen you before. Purnashandra Sekhar Gunda. Because I was like, huh? And then they said it to me in the past like they weren't sure of like the right English words to use. The person that says hi auntie. Are you from India? Trisha is the best mod. Thank you. But welcome in, Perna. I remember you. I remember it because the word auntie threw me off like, I don't think that's my niece's. You are, for Pete's sake. There's only three of you left. There's Hearts, and her sister had to have a heart valve surgery, and she did say that publicly this week. So we're praying for Hearts of Gold prospecting. And then Kermudge, he's always busy with the homestead out in Alaska. So for now, Trisha, you're it. But I really appreciate you. No, she is. She's the best. She's the one who suggested the Amazon wish list, and so far I've got two things that have come and a third on its way. Might even be sitting at my mailbox right now. Yeah, if you see this on the replay, Hearts of Gold, um, we've all been praying. I've been praying every single night for your sister for her recovery. I hope everything went well with her surgery. And if sometimes Kermudge listens in the background, he's probably cooking dinner right now. But if you are Kermudge, hello to my friends, Rob and Sarah. We'll give it a few more minutes. We'll make it an even hour. How about that? Yeah, that makes sense, Trisha. She says some creators have a wish list because people don't like to give donations where YouTube takes such a big cut. Exactly. Yeah, I'm shocked about their microphone because even though I see the name, like on Amazon, I still don't know who it is. I mean, I know the name, but I don't know the name like here in the YouTube chat. But not everybody, participates in the chat, and a lot of people just have their Google username, which could be completely different than their true identity. So, and I'm not going to mention the person unless this person comes forward and I can verify that it's him. I mean, it's a man. That's all I can tell you. But if you're watching, thank you. I should be going there tomorrow because the box will be closed on Sunday and I will be in the dental chair on Monday. I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I'm kind of looking forward to Monday evening after it's already done. And hopefully that's going to be enough because if I need to have a surgery there, it's going to be very complex because I'll have to go off some of my heart medication multiple times, go off, go on, go off, go on. And when I did that last time after the two surgeries, I ended up in the hospital. So let's hope that just the replacement filling will be enough. And that's not going to be cheap. I mean, I think he's a reasonably priced dentist, but it's still not going to be cheap. Everything has hit me in the last couple of months. Hey, Jay, I'm just getting ready to go off in another minute. But feel free to watch this on the replay and hear this awesome, awesome case. Thank you, Jamie. He is going to do a replacement, but he needs to dig the old one out and he needs to go a little further where there's a little teeny crack that's starting to form at the top. And he needs to remove part of that and make the filling go out over the side, I guess. But I did get the medical clearance to be able to do that. This case is about the Martin family who disappeared in 1958. We got 15 seconds left, everybody. Well, down here, my target says 53 seconds, so we'll do 53 seconds. Yeah, if you're gonna watch the replay, everybody, give me 5 minutes after I go off the air because I have to go back to the desktop, go into the back end of YouTube, which is Studio, and I have to re-hit the monetization and I have to check a few boxes and then you can see it. If you see it too soon, your view won't count. Okay. Thanks for coming in, Jamie. Oh, no problem. I think there was 2 videos yesterday, Jay. Well, everybody, thanks for coming. I will try to, I'll test out the new mic as soon as I get it, maybe make a long form content, and then you guys can actually see some pictures with this because the pictures are pretty amazing. Okay, everybody, pray for Nancy Guthrie and let's send good vibes to Savannah and family.